to learn from each other. So this is not the end of the conversation, but we're going to add a part to the conversation. Okay? So I see 2 hands that have been up the whole time. So I'm going to say one thing to you, very quickly, before we go into Dr. Brooks coming up.
Okay, y'all. I am Jay Walker. I am not afraid to put a name on that. I am a great debater. Y'all did that. We did this. We came together as a community, as a school, as black and brown students, and we had our voices heard. Come on. This is something to be proud of. I am proud of y'all. I don't want this to be the end of this community. We bring it together and we keep the same community. Y'all did it. It's a piggyback off. I want to acknowledge, because I am a person who wants to hear both sides of the story. I'm all for it, I promise you. So what you said with people make mistakes, they do. We all do. We're human. We all touch a little here and there. Of course we do. But at the end of the day, these are the people we're supposed to be comfortable coming to. These are the people we're supposed to be like, hey, I got a problem. I know VP will be on 50. Hey, I got a problem. I know I can call VP Brooks and she's going to be awesome. Hey, I got a problem. I'm going to go talk to Dr. Pickens, and she's not going to go back, and she's not going to go tell anybody about what I just said. That's what we need as administration. Those are the people we want to see when we're looking up to y'all. We're looking up to y'all for professionalism. We're going off of what y'all are showing us to be professional. That's what we need, and that's what we want to see. We don't see that, so we have to call for your reward.
My name is Janera Felix, and as she was saying, let me just put a little thought into y'all head. So, it's 2 weeks into school. It's your freshman year, right? You decide, it's my freshman year, I want to have a little fun. You get a little drinking or whatever. Right?
No, I don't.
No, let's talk. Y'all know I don't do it. So, you get drunk. Something happens to you, right? You go to the people who's over Title IX to go to them for help, right? Your case takes 2 months. 2 months.
Wow.
And then once you get there for your resolution and you have that conversation with the other person, you feel it's justified. You tell them you were drunk to the point you don't remember, and you know that something happened to you, and that person tries to justify it and says, oh, well, people's mindset changes when they're drunk. You don't know, you could have consented. You can't consent while you're drunk.
Yeah.
So you go to the head of people, and they give you said resolution while also trying to justify the boys' side instead of listening to your side, and they claim they listen to both sides, but they're not hearing it. You preach as soon as we get to school, Title IX, you put it on a presentation, on a slideshow, and say that if someone does something to you while you are under the influence, you can't consent, correct? She said, oh, they'll be out by 5 p.m. 2 months. 2 months. Still here.
Still here.
So, everybody can take a deep breath for me so we can center, so we can hear each other some more. I'm going to just again ask that we take this moment to hear, right? We ask for a conversation, we ask for hearing, and that's what's going to happen next.
Good evening. So before we get into any conversation, I want to acknowledge every comment, every experience, and we have to own it. So if that's how you experience this, we own it. I'm starting acknowledging what we're sharing, okay? I hear you all. explain to her when I'm now sharing with you all. She was gracious enough to accept my apology as I tried to explain the context of that conversation, and me calling her Selena was not me saying or trying to be insinuate anything other than I think she's a bad baby. That's it. It's like the equivalent of when I walk in and Dr. Peters walk in and I go, oh, hey, Beyonce. It's the same thing. That's what it was. That's my heart that I'm giving y'all right now. Take and do what you want with it. I don't want to be honest. But again, I want to acknowledge that it sounds crazy when you don't have a relationship with us and you don't know the context of the conversation. I am fully aware, as the daughter of a single mother raised by my great-grandmother, that most of us are fighting to be here, black or white. So I come from that. I get that. I am that. And the last thing I want to do is create a space where students feel like they're not heard and they're not respected. But let me say this. I can hear you, but just because I don't agree with you, does not mean I don't hear you. Okay? There's a difference between hearing somebody and agreeing. I will always listen. But that does not necessarily mean that I'm going to agree. That's different. So the conversation that you all had in the beginning was me just having an inappropriate conversation that I should not have been having with folks who report to me. That's number one. But it's my frustration with a situation that a student leader was going through that she poured out to us the day before. I was not coming for her, as I've heard. I was simply frustrated because of the experience she was having. And knowing what I know I was hypothesizing that it ain't going to do better. So what do we need to do to get her out of this? That's what you heard. I was not coming for Alicia. Alicia's the people's queen. Who don't like Alicia? It was advocacy that you heard. But again, I hear you all. I acknowledge it. It does not fall. I'm getting there. Give me 1 second, please. I hear you all, and I can't do anything but accept that. And again, apologize, because I know it sounds crazy when I'm telling you what the context was. And I'm asking you to trust me or be willing to build to get to trust. And if you all are having negative experiences anywhere, I want to know about them. Even if those negative experiences are with people on my team. So to come in about Janae, inappropriate, hands down, shouldn't have happened. And I apologize. And I wish you was here to say that.
I'm here.
Oh, I didn't see you in that room. There you go. Apologize. I'm sorry. It shouldn't have happened. So I want to let you all know that it is not my intent to make this not a great experience for you all. And if there are ways that we can be collaborative and work to a solution, I'm open to that. My team is open to that. I apologize. It was not my intent to be disrespectful, but again, I want to acknowledge how it absolutely sounds crazy when you hear it. And so what moment y'all had, you welcome the right to hear, to have that reaction. And I'm proud of the work that you all did today to organize yourselves pretty quickly and get something going. So good job on that. So now, I apologize again. I mean it. I want to build trust with each of you. If there are gaps on my team or areas to say, hey, I can really think about that or what about this, I want you to hear that. But we have to be in community for that to happen. I don't see y'all as the odds. But the only way that I can influence some of what y'all want is if you're willing to talk to me. I'm old, but I think it's cool, may not be cool. But you have to be willing to communicate with me in order for that to happen. And I'm willing to listen.
Give that mic to D-Lo. D-Lo. Come over
My name is Sophia. I'm talking. Me personally, I've never had any bad experience with Koozie. I've never had no running with him. My biggest thing is, I hate when people try to, I won't say try to play something stupid, but we all heard the same thing. And you said that you're saying the Selena situation was a compliment. So from the video, what I last heard was Koozie calling her Selena, one guy calling her Selena, and you were like, the other person was like, oh, you have to stop calling her Selena. So if it was meant like that, why is it, like, why are you saying that? And then I have one more thing. Are you sorry you got caught or
Wow.
And share that thought for a second.
What about ice?
D-Lo.
Again, I also echo context, right? And I apologize for the way you receive things, okay? And what I mean by that is there is no ill will that we will ever do to any student. But when you receive something without context, then it will sound crazy. And the context was not in any mean will or ill will at all. We were literally trying to make sure that a situation that occurred, that we can make some type of better out of a bad situation. And I hate that y'all receive something and not in its full totality. So I do apologize because in nothing that was said was in ill will. Nothing.
Nice.
Talk about that every day. Talk about that every day. Don't whisper nothing.
So, one of the pieces of this conversation is that you asked for an apology. You asked and invited the opportunity for hearing what was being said, context, to better understand what was said and why, and then the opportunity to share your thoughts, your reactions and your feelings, and then to also hear from the persons, their perspective and their apology. So that was one of the resolutions that you asked for, correct?
That wasn't an apology.
So what I'm going to invite us to do for 1 second, is take a minute and hear the apology. Just 1 second. Okay? And in that question that you asked, we're in community together. When we're in community together, can we hear each other when we recognize that we're wrong? Can we hear that? No. Aside from this, I'm asking a very specific question about being in community together. No. So, when we are in community together, one of the things that happens is we are absolutely okay with calling each other out, inviting the opportunity to say what happened or what one believes happened, and then to apologize. But also in community, there's an opportunity for us to understand the responsibility of forgiveness. And again, forgiveness is not about the person, it's about us. So, I'm asking us in the moment of being in community, just to hold on a second and hear your inner thoughts around the apology. For us to sit for a second with the apology. do is to offer something. When people say that they are willing and that they have invited you to say what you feel to them, it's important that we understand that that's a continuum. Meaning, sometimes in the moment, what you have to say is important, but it's also an ongoing conversation. So, what I want to invite you all to do as well as today, as we pray, as we talk about how we make ourselves as a community better, is to also ask ourselves, how will we continue the conversation? And I'm asking it from the perspective of a conversation. Meaning, how do we continue to be in community with each other when we feel someone has done us harm? How does that work? How can that happen? It's a very hard task. But all of us have been wronged, correct? And in those moments, we can honor how we feel. We can honor what other people feel. But the part that I think is also important that we often don't talk about is what we do next. And that's just as important as the apology, as calling out behaviors that don't align with the community, but it's also a question of what we do next. So, in our questions next, the invitation is for us to center it in a space that offers next, that offers the opportunity for us to say to ourselves, as Wiley University, we feel wronged, but what do we do next? Do we hold this? Do we hold it in our bellies and we walk around with it? What do we do next? It's an opportunity for community. So okay. So I appreciate that. So we've heard from both of them an apology.
One apology.
And now what we want to do is go into the demonstration of the apology. Right? Because one of the things about community work is that anybody, to your point, can say they're sorry about something. Is that not correct? So that's what I mean when I say about the next. Because today, at this moment, the change, you're not going to see it at this moment. You're just not. The apology is there. But we can hold each other accountable as a community, that going forward, the invitation was and is that as a community, we are expected to engage one another in ways that meet a particular standard. I heard words like professionalism. I heard the words about not engaging in bigoted, prejudiced, racist statements. I heard us talking about how we as a community must also learn to hear each other when instances happen to us personally. But I also heard the idea that sometimes things happen and we don't always know the full story. And so coming together to ask is very important. But it's a question of next. So, I'm inviting your questions to be about next and about how we as a community will be able to be accountable to one another. I heard systems, I heard all kinds of things, but how will we be accountable to one another as we live in community? So, the President Wilson has remarks.
It's only giving me a minute and 30 of live. It's